our English language class for today. In today's class, we are going to be looking at plural compounds. As we consider plural compounds today, I want you to bear something at the back of your mind, that plural compounds are compounds that are made up of one or two or more words that are held with a hyphen. Now the question is, plural compounds are made up of nouns and adjectives, and in such plural compounds, the adjectives cannot be pluralized. So when you are given such questions, you should make sure that in the options, the adjectives are not pluralized. So if you are watching this now and you're sitting for the next JAMB examination, or be it GCE or WAEC, then if you are asked questions like this and you see questions like this, you should be able to answer the correct option. So in today's class, we are going to consider what plural compounds are in general, and then we are now going to isolate some key examples you are due to see in your exams. Don't forget to join our community as we are conducting regular examination or exam classes, preparation classes for JAMB students who will be sitting for the forthcoming JAMB, which will be taking place very, very soon. So as I said earlier on, I said we'll be discussing plural compounds. Now, plural compounds are made up of adjectives and nouns. So in most plural compounds, these cannot be pluralized. Why these can be pluralized? So if you are given any question that involves plural compounds, then you should know that these adjectives cannot be pluralized, while the noun can be pluralized. Now, what the question is, what are good examples of adjectives or plural compounds? We look at when you have plural compounds like Secretary General. These are good examples of plural compound. Secretary General. They are held by a what? By a hyphen. So with that, I can now define my plural compound as words that are held together, that words that are one or two or more words that are held together with a hyphen. Now, as we have plural compound or compound adjectives, we also have compound nouns. So since adjectives, whether they are simple or one word form, they can form what we call compound noun, compound words with what? With noun. And such adjectives can never be pluralized. Now, have you ever seen anybody say beautifuls? No, because S shouldn't be there, because it's an adjective that qualify a noun that can be what? Girl. So I can say beautiful what? Girls. So you see, adjectives, which I want you to bear in mind, that adjectives can never be pluralized. Now you remember the definition of adjectives. They are words that qualifies a noun. So we will have to deal only with plural forms of compound words, which are what? Which are pluralizable. So in such cases, the nouns are just the only word in a compound word that can be pluralized. Now we're going to consider such words, and then we'll consider rules that can help us answer questions on our plural compounds. What are some of these rules, and why are these rules very, very important? Now, as we consider some of these rules, I want you to bear in mind that compound words, which comprises of adjectives and nouns, the adjectives do not fake the S morphemes. Take note of that. they are very, very important. So we are going to consider the first rule, and that is rule 1. Now, what is the rule? In the first rule, we are going to see, when dealing with compound words, that compound words, when a preposition or a noun forms a compound word, then the noun and not the preposition should carry the pluralized s morphemes. Now, what do we mean? When we have a preposition and a noun forming a compound word, what are the examples? Remember that prepositions, good examples of prepositions is on, a, by, on, by, under, etc. A is not a preposition, rather it is an article. So when you have on, by, under, and the like, when they come with a noun to form a compound word, you should note that the noun and not the preposition should carry the x. Now, a good example of this is when we have onlooker. So I don't say onlooker. The pluralized form of this compound word is onlookers. Now, when I have another word like the bystander, I should have what? The bystanders as the plural compound. Now, when I have another word like in comma, then I should have an s as the plural part of the word. What if I have a word like outgoer? Then I should have an x to form the plural word. So you see, this is a preposition and this is a noun. So when we have a noun, a preposition, when we have a preposition and a noun with a hyphen forming a compound words, the noun should carry the s and not the what? The preposition. That is rule 1. So whenever you have any question and you are given options in that question, you should make sure that the noun, if the options are made up of the preposition and the noun, you should make sure that the noun has the x in the pluralized form. Now, rule number 2. In rule number 2, I want you to take note of this, that when you have two nouns and they are set to form a compound word, it is the last noun that carries the s morphemes. Now, the last noun carries the s morpheme. Now, what do we mean about that? What do we mean? What do we mean by that? When we have two nouns forming a compound word, let's look at tea and then cup. Tea is a noun, cup is also a noun. When they come to form a compound noun and want to pluralize them, now the pluralized form will be what? Teacups. Right? That will be teacups. Now, when we have face, which is a noun, meeting up with clothes, then the pluralized form tells you that this is noun 1 and this is noun 2. So rule 2 says noun 2 will be the one that will carry the what? The s. So I'm going to have face what? Face clothes. So you see, that is rule 2. So when two nouns are to form a compound word, it is the last noun that carries the s morphemes. So these are two good examples of what we have. So if you are given any options and you are given a question and it boils down to you having two nouns forming a compound word, then you should know that the second noun in the sentence or in the word or in the sentence should have the S. That is rule 2. Now let's consider the third rule. In the third rule, occasionally a noun may precede another noun. When we have a noun, most especially forming a compound noun, it can be preceded with another noun. Now, if it is preceded by another noun, the first noun will perform what we call the adjectival function for the second noun. And when that happens, then the second real noun, not the first noun that is performing like an adjective, will carry the S. Now, take note. When I have two nouns, that is rule 3. In rule 3, if I have two nouns, take note, I have a noun, boy, and separated by a hyphen followed by another noun, scout. Now, I have these two nouns, and the first noun is performing an adjectival function to the second noun. This is an adjective to this noun, boy, because scout is telling us what? It's telling us that it's adding an additional function, or is qualifying the boy, the noun boy. So if the second adjective or the second noun, which is also scout, is performing an adjectival function to the first noun, which is boy, then the rule say it is the second real noun, not the first noun, that is performing an adjectival function that must carry the S morphemes. So in this case, what should carry the S morphemes? Scout, the second noun. So I can say this is what? Boy Scout. So you see, that is this, and it is wrong for me to say Boys Scout. So this is right, while this is what? Wrong. So in any option, if you are given a word to fill the gap, and you are given this and this remains the pluralized form of that word, of that compound words. That is what? Rule 3. So when we have something similar to this, we should bear this in mind. Remember, I said we are going to handle 4 good rules. Now, take note of rule 3. When you have a noun, two nouns, occasionally they happen, you have two nouns forming a compound word. And the second noun is performing an adjectival function to the first noun. That means adjectives qualifies the noun. It's qualifying the noun, then the second noun should take what? Should take the X, because it is performing an adjectival function for the first noun. That is rule 3. Now let's consider rule 4. In rule 4, we are going to consider the fact that we have what we call compound noun forming titles to some given individuals. Now, when we have a compound noun, which is more of a title. Now, when a title is compounded, now what do we mean by a title? We talk of people, see people coming talking about secretary, we talk about manager, we talk about secretary general, we talk of engineers. All these are titles attached to people's names. So when a title is compounded, the adjective part of it will not carry the morphemes S. The adjective part of that title will not carry the morphemes S. Now let's consider two good examples. We have this financial secretary. Now we have two titles being held by what? By a hyphen, and they form what we call a compound word. Financial secretary. Now, which is the adjective and which is the noun? Now we have this as a noun. The secretary is the name of somebody who takes care of the master's or the boss activities. So financial is qualifying or is adding meaning to what? To secretary. So the adjective is what? Is financial. So the rule 4 says when a title is compounded, the adjective part of it will not carry the what? The morphemes s. Now remember, when we started this discussion, I told you that what you should take home from this discussion is when you have a compound words and you have been able to identify the adjective in that compound word, adjectives do not carry the morphemes s. So I want you to take note of that. So in the pluralized form of this compound word, which is more of a title, I can say this is what? This is what? Financial what? Secretaries. This is the adjectives and it can't carry the morphemes s. So we call these financial secretaries. So when you are giving question and the option has to do with things like this, you should know that the pluralized form should be this and not what? This or this. So take note of that. Now let's consider another good example. When we have Secretary General, Secretary General. Now, which among these two compounded words is the adjective? Now, what do we consider as the adjective? Secretary is the main noun, while general is an addition or an adjective qualifying the general, the secretary. So what do we have? This can never take what? Can never be pluralized because it's an adjective. So we'll have this to become secretary general. You're going to see examples in which all these will be what? Will be exemplified, and that way you can see clearer how these can be used when you are giving questions, how these rules can be used when you are giving questions related to this. Now another keywords you want to take is when you have chief of staff. Now, what's the pluralized form of this compound noun? We'll have this to become chief of staff. Now remember, this is a compound word, and the adjectives don't carry what? Don't carry s. So take note of that, and you are going to see questions like this in your exam. So there are a lot of things like this which we need to know. So note one good important point, that whenever a hyphen divides two or three or more words, if the noun is a person's title, then it must start with a capital word later. Now take note of this. This is what an exception. When a hyphen divides two, three or more words, if the noun is a person's title, it should start with a capital letter. Now let's consider these examples. is a special note. If we have a special note, if you have words like chief, chief justice. Now look at that very well. You come to see that when you have a hyphen holding two or more words, if the noun is a person title, then it must start with a what? Capital what? Letter. So I should start this with a capital what? Letter, and not what? Not Chief's Justice. Now I want you to take special note of this. We call these Chief Justices. Take special note of this. We call these Chief what? Chief Justices, and not what? Not Chief Justices. It should be what? It should be what? It should not be a small what? Letter. That's a special note. So when we have two adjectives or two nouns being held with a hyphen, take note of that, being held with a hyphen, then if the noun is person's title, then it must start with a capital letter and not what? Not small letter. So we don't have this as chiefs justices. It's very wrong, as I said earlier on, or the singular form of it, which is chief justices, or plural form is chief justices. Rather, it should be what? Chief what? Justices. Now, same thing goes with auditor. Same thing goes with auditors general. And not auditor, not auditors general. So this is right and this is wrong. So take note of this. It mustn't be a small word, a small letter. Those are special notes you should bear in mind when you deal with issues like this. So we're going to look at other important list of compound nouns you should bear in mind. Let's look at some of those important lists of compound nouns. I'm going to list those important lists of compound nouns which you must bear in mind as you discuss topics, as you go through topics like this. Bear in mind this list of compounds now. They are very, very important, and you are going to see them in your exams. Now, I've given you a general note of all rules that you need to abide with when you deal with compound nouns. Now, I want you to take note of this list of common compounds. We have these to be C, because parent teacher associations should carry the what? Should carry the S. So whenever you are given any question like this, bear in mind that it is very, very important that you consider the what? You consider the adjectives, and adjectives are never pluralized. Now, this is all we can take on plural compounds. In our next topic, we'll be considering question tag. And that is exactly what we're going to look at in this during this period, that is the revisions that are close to your JAMB exam period. Don't forget to join us tomorrow as we'll be considering another interesting topic, question tags. Thanks so much for joining us, and we do appreciate your presence. See you some other time.